For most of us, sustainable living won't happen in ideal conditions. It's a series of pivots, what we can do, where we are, and with what we've got. Today's guest will take us through what it means to keep doing the work, even when the landscape changes. Literally. From making oat milk to the mighty beaver, this one covers it all. Welcome to Sustainable in the Suburbs, a podcast for the eco-curious who want to live a greener life and are looking for a place to start. I'm your host, Sarah Robertson Barnes, a soccer mom with a station wagon and a passion for sustainable living. Each week, I'll bring you practical tips and honest conversations to help you waste less, save money, and make small, doable shifts that actually fit your real life. Because sustainable living doesn't have to be perfect to matter, and you don't have to do it all to make a difference. Hello, and welcome back to Sustainable in the Suburbs, the podcast where we start where we are, use what we have, and live a little greener, one small shift at a time. I am your host, Sarah Robertson Barnes, and thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you've been enjoying the podcast and want to help grow our little eco community, there are a few quick and easy things you can do. Make sure you're following the show wherever you're listening today and leave a rating or a review. It really helps other folks find the show. Come and hang out with me on Instagram. I'm there at Sarah Robertson Barnes, and just slide into my DMs anytime. Ask me any questions. Let me know what's resonating with you or what you might like to hear on the show. And be sure to check out the links in the show notes for the blog, newsletter, all that kind of stuff. It's all there for you. So lately, I've been thinking a lot about how our sustainability journeys evolve over time. Most of us start with small, tangible actions, the reusable coffee cup, a compost bin, a recycling bin that somehow never fits everything. And then at some point, we realize the work is so much bigger than that. It's about the systems we live in, the communities we're a part of, and the values we keep coming back to when things start to get hard. It's also about staying human, letting our version of sustainability change as our lives do too. My guest today is Kristy Halderman, whose sustainability journey has taken her from big city life in Washington, D.C. to now the wide open spaces of Montana. Kristy has explored sustainability from all angles, from individual action to owning a sustainable business and being a sustainable investing advisor, and now community-level conservation work. These days, she works with a trail organization in Montana, helping connect people to the outdoors and advocate for healthy, accessible ecosystems. Over the last decade, she's seen just how different sustainability can look depending on where you live, and how hard it can be to hold on to your values when the infrastructure just isn't there to support them. We talk about what it means to keep doing the work, even when it's hard, how our definitions of sustainability have changed over time, and why she's very recently become very into beavers. Here's my conversation with Kristy. Hi, Kristy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So to start off, for listeners who haven't met you yet, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what it's like where you live?
Where I live? Wow. Okay. My name's Kristy Halderman. I think I met you, has it been almost 10 years since we became internet friends?
Yep.
I still have yet to visit you. It is on the list, I swear. But I grew up in Ohio, as my dad likes to call it, along the Canadian Riviera in Cleveland. And then I moved to the East Coast, lived in DC for a number of years before I found my way in Montana. I live in Billings, which is in eastern Montana in the U.S.
And what's the community like there? Does it have like sustainability vibes, or what's it like in that part of the world?
Yeah, it's really interesting living here after living in a place that's as diverse as Washington, D.C. There is a lot of active transportation infrastructure. So cycling, walking everywhere. I didn't own a car for 6 years when I lived there, took the metro everywhere, was able to fly or take the train or, and anywhere that I needed to go, like I could get there without a vehicle. And when I moved here, everybody has a vehicle, and it's not only a little vehicle. Everybody has a giant souped up truck, F-150s. There's actually a couple of cyber trucks that I've seen around. One is in my neighborhood. Yeah, it's just an interesting vibe. So yeah, all of Montana, the truck is consistent across the state and part of the western U.S., but I would say that sustainability isn't a priority here. We do pay extra for our recycling and composting. The city they did just start recycling cardboard for residents. Yeah. And they do have yard waste bins, which a couple of years ago we had one and then they confiscated it from us and we haven't been able to get it back. So it's just a really interesting dynamic living here after where I used to live with a lot more sustainable infrastructure. But there are a lot of people that are really advocating for more of that, again, active transportation infrastructure, for recycling, for more sustainable practices here because they understand the gravity of having those things available.
Yeah, that's so interesting because it's a very like wildernessy area too. So I would naturally assume that those things would go hand in hand, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So how did your sustainability journey begin? Were you always like this or was there something that sparked it?
I've always loved animals. When I was a kid, I dreamt, probably as a lot of us do, of being a veterinarian, an animal doctor. And there's a lot of hurdles that come with that once you become an adult and realize maybe I can't do this much school. But basically, I have just always loved animals. And I feel like that has gone hand in hand with my environmentalism. I didn't really discover more of a honestly, both micro and macro level environmentalism. The way that I view it is a lot of folks that are climate advocates, they kind of are looking at it at a real macro level. And then a lot of folks that are doing more of your zero waste or low waste living, sustainable lifestyles are kind of at that micro level. And again, those things go hand in hand because you need both of them to have a more sustainable society. So I really didn't discover both of them in that way until I moved to Washington and meeting new people, a lot of people from different backgrounds that cared more about these things. And again, as I've already talked about, having more sustainable practices that are part of the local government, or having that active transportation there and that transportation infrastructure and having composting, recycling, all of those things, having that available really educated me into what or how I should be living more sustainably. And so it was really just by proxy of being there and learning about these things and starting to become more sustainably minded.
Mm. So when you were in DC, you were more like all in, I guess, on zero waste. I think you had zero waste in your username at one point. Did you do the trash jar? Did we talk about this?
Oh, who didn't? Who didn't at that point in time? Good for you. Yeah, no, I did it because I thought I was supposed to, I guess. I'm like, I'm not an advocate unless I shove all my trash into a jar, whatever that means. And then you my husband and I talk about this because it seems negative to say, there's so much upstream waste that you can't control. And sometimes there's that attitude of who cares. And you should care, because if maybe you can't control it right now, but you should be aware of it so you can, again, advocate for it and limiting it upstream. But you think about going to the doctor, like or the dentist, I'm not going to take my used floss from the dentist and shove it in that jar. That's just kind of weird. And now I have dogs and I'm not going to put any sort of dog waste into a glass jar. That's also, maybe people do that. It could be, different strokes for different folks, I guess. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I did used to do that. And then I quickly realized how unattainable and maybe unrealistic that is. And also it was making me feel really bad about myself because I couldn't get everything, or somebody gives me a gift and it has a lot of disposable wrapping paper or single-use items in it and I can't do anything with it. I can't put it in that jar. So now I'm a failure. And so I did it, but I stopped it very quickly. And sorry,
I did it for a weekend.
You did it for a weekend?
I did it for a weekend and basically filled the jar after a weekend. And I still have it. I've never gotten rid of it. I still have it. I use it as a prop when I give talks or whatever to just be like, it's an interesting exercise because it's like a little mini waste audit. I'm a big advocate of doing a trash audit in your house.
Oh, yeah.
Just to sort of see what it is that you're throwing away, because we just have this out of sight, out of mind. Like it's in the trash can and now it's gone. But your garbage actually has to go somewhere. So it is useful for getting an idea of upstream waste. So I think it's an interesting exercise, but as a tool. But it never sat right with me when I first discovered the zero waste movement. And I was real quiet about that for a long time until finally I was just like, oh my God, the trash jar is garbage.
It's garbage in itself. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you love about the early zero waste movement and that community?
I think the community itself, I made a lot of long lasting friendships that have crossed over into real life friendships. There are a lot of folks that I met in person, and you'd always have to question when you meet people online. Maybe 20 years ago, it's like, oh, I met all my friends on the internet, and people might question that. But I mean, you and there's a number of other people that I still consistently talk to and consider good friends that I share personal details of my life with. And it all came from having this shared passion for making the world a better place and trying to reduce our personal footprint so that we can leave it better for the next generation.
Yeah, community comes in all forms. Like it's okay to have friends in your phone that are like-hearted folks. And then what that does, at least for me, is it makes me a little more confident in going out and finding those people in my real life community too, that I know they're out there. I just have to find them in real life. And the place you do that is at the library.
To be fair, that is where I if we're going to pinpoint a point in time that I discovered kind of being more sustainable, I was in the library just kind of perusing different titles, and I found one about living more sustainably, and I started reading it. And the author, I can't remember who it is now, and I feel bad, but it did say that. It said, hey, what are you doing with your life? How much trash do you, and it talked about doing that trash audit. And that was my first exposure to it. And I remember doing that and being like, oh, wow, I really can't there's so many things that I'm putting in the garbage that if I couldn't take my garbage and put it elsewhere, that this all would be in my home. And that's wild because I don't need to use all of those things. So the library is a great place.
Mm-hmm. You just reminded me of if we had to keep all this garbage, how much would there be? I was living in Toronto in 2009 during the garbage strike, which was in the summer. And I remember this. It's like a speed dating for trash. It was really interesting living in the raccoon capital of the world.
Was that the same year that they had that mural where there was a dead raccoon and they were putting pictures for it? You should look that up.
That sounds very Toronto. I can't pinpoint the year, but that sounds very Toronto. Yeah, we have a complex relationship with our trash pandas. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the DC Times, I also know that you used to run an oat milk business. Mm-hmm. So what sparked that idea, and what did you learn from trying to build a sustainable business?
Oh my God. What didn't I? I mainly learned what not to do when you're running a small business. But the concept came about. I had a co-founder, my former business partner, and we were both making oat milk at home, and we both wanted to start a business. And we actually had a couple of ideas that we were trying to implement or run with first. And then we found a local food accelerator. It was an accelerator program, but they focused on food and beverage businesses in DC. And we pitched an idea to them. They loved it. And then we kind of just ran with it. I would say overall, one of the things that funding was tough. It is true when you have a business, it does take money to make money, It is tough. Like when you want to scale, if you don't have that investment, it's very difficult to grow, very difficult to hire people. I understand when people are running certain types of businesses out of their homes, and they're maybe they're going to a farmer's market and they're selling certain products or whatnot. It's kind of a weekend type thing, but the more you want to sell things and the more you grow, the more time consuming it is. And it just kind of snowballs from there. I think one of the things with it is that regulations, and they should be like this, food and beverage regulations, the products that you're consuming, they should be strict because you need to keep people safe and not fall ill from foodborne illness. But the restrictions were so tough that it was so difficult for us to continue to produce the way that we were, even at a small scale. And it's not that it wasn't, we were abiding by all the rules, but there were certain things that were keeping us, again, from growing our business. The main thing with having the focus on sustainability. So it was kind of the milkman style idea where we were doing it with plant-based milk. So we had oat milk. It was artisan. We were, hand making every batch. We're trying to use organic local oats, but they don't exactly grow in that region. Oats are mainly grown in drier regions like the Dakotas, Minnesota, Canada. So there weren't a lot of local farms that were growing them. So that was a hurdle that we had as well. But we were trying to package in reusable glass. But something that we also quickly learned is that most plant-based milks, or anything that's really shelf stable, when you have packaging that is shelf stable, there's certain ways to pasteurize your product, especially liquids. Any liquid is pasteurized. I should cut that out. But there's a certain way to pasteurize those products, and you can't do it in glass because the glass would shatter. So essentially you have the ultra high temperature pasteurization, or you have the high pressure. And again, glass would shatter, so you can't have that type of packaging. But that was really the only sustainable way that we could think of making it reusable, is having those old milk bottles. So that was like one giant hurdle for us trying to grow, because then we also didn't really have the space to store all these bottles. We're using a co-packing kitchen because you can't make it in your house. I mean, there's just one thing after another, and kind of what it boils down to is that we weren't really willing to get a large amount of capital to invest in this business when we couldn't prove that it was worth the growth, if that makes sense. So it was a good concept in theory, and I don't think it was a bad idea. There's actually a business that's almost exactly what we were doing that's in Montana, and it's across the state. It's in another town, but it's called Cool Earth Creamery, but almost to a T. Like it's oat milk, artisan made in reusable bottles, cool logo, cool person. She's ventured into ice cream now, but that town is very supportive and they love her product, and she's continuing to grow. So it is definitely possible. It was just the time of where we were. It just didn't work out for us.
Yeah. Right time, right place. What does sustainable actually mean? All of those.
Yeah. Part of me
factors.
So we started, I'm not going too long into tangents, right? I know I'm long-winded, but another thing is that I think we really started right before oat milk really became popular. So we almost became our brand. I don't think people realized it was just two women just doing it, like it's just a 2-woman run business, because we're competing against these large companies, Oatly, Califia Farms. I mean, these like huge conglomerates that are owned by people with a lot more money than us. And we started getting demand where they would say, hey, can you ship your product to New York City? Hey, can you ship your product to LA, to the Bay Area? Hey, we saw your product. Can you send it to Florida? And we're starting to get calls about these things. And they want a lower purchase point. And we can't do that because we can't afford it. And so people were interested, and it's kind of my main takeaway from all things sustainability. If you make it accessible to people, they will choose that option if they can. And unfortunately, we couldn't make it accessible at that time.
Mm-hmm. It seems like that experience really opened your eyes to the bigger systems, like beyond personal sustainability, and that shift from individual habits to the systems that shape them, like especially money. So then how did sustainable investing come into the picture?
So that kind of sparked, I guess, on a personal level, I used to do a lot more of that. My background has always been in personal finance, and I worked in the financial industry for a number of years. And I wanted to get more into educating folks about impact investing and how they can invest or put their dollars where they care more and have more feeling of responsibility, or they can have more say in where their investments go. So if you don't want to invest in fossil fuels, if you don't want to invest in even plastics, if there's certain industries that you don't feel comfortable investing in, trying to educate folks on those kinds of things. And I think that kind of started once we decided to stop operations with my small business, because I thought, okay, well, if I can't run this business on my own, I can at least try to educate people in how to invest in other sustainably minded businesses.
Was there a point that you realized that you wanted to step away from that work as well? And what maybe guided that decision?
Yeah, it sounds like I just dabble in everything, but there's always kind of a reason why you might leave a certain type of work or certain type of industry. I was trying to make that kind of education accessible because, again, from my experience, people do train for a long time, and you're paying people for their knowledge and how they are helping you invest. But overall, I was putting I still worked full time, and I was putting a lot of time and energy and effort into creating content, into helping people with just, I wasn't managing portfolios, but I was reviewing them and helping folks, or like helping guide them into the right direction of where they wanted to go. And I was really doing it because I cared a lot about it. So I was spending all of this time and effort and energy and not making any money from it, which money isn't everything, but yeah, exactly. But if you're not making an income from it, you don't have any spare time, and you're not really having a lot to show from it. So that was tough. And then I also started getting feedback, I shouldn't say feedback, but criticism online, and it was kind of coming from all directions. And so typically I would say in the sustainability space, there are folks online that don't agree with it. They're climate deniers. They support billionaires, and they do all of these other things. And so they're automatically not going to agree with you. It's not those people that I expect that from people that relate or believe in that ideology. But for me, I was taken aback when I started being attacked from people that were calling me, I started having people calling me classist because I was suggesting certain things and certain ways of living that can be low cost or inexpensive to then invest. I had a lot of people come at me and say, it doesn't matter how you invest. Nothing's going to help anyway. All of them are terrible. Like, you shouldn't have your money in any shape or form. And I get where those people are coming from. But in the US, where we lack a lot of social safety nets, if you're not investing at least something, you're really jeopardizing your future when it comes to retirement, because we don't have guaranteed pensions. We don't have low cost or free healthcare. We don't have free education. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have to pay for. And if you're not saving and investing in some capacity, you're really putting yourself at risk for housing insecurity when you're older, because a lot of us, we can't work forever. And so you have to really, really think about those things. And that's why I'll never tell people not to protect their, safety of their family and their futures in that regard. But again, going back to, I'm not making any money off of this. So I'm getting all of this criticism from all these folks in all directions that are just constantly, they're emailing me, they're sending me a barrage of comments or messages or whatever, telling me what I'm doing is stupid. And I hate using that word frivolously. They just don't agree with what I'm doing. And then I think, okay, well, if nobody really likes or appreciates what I'm doing, then I'm not going to do it, because I'm essentially wasting my time doing it. And so I just kind of stopped. And so I wasn't doing that anymore either. And yeah, I kind of made after essentially I went to, I kind of did a hard stop on that when I went to grad school. I started grad school in the fall of 22, and I haven't really done much of that since.
Yeah, the criticisms can be so tough because there's never going to be the right thing to do for anybody.
Right.
But I think that's also the point. Like, that's fine. If it's not something that you're interested in, then just don't do that. What are you interested in? What are you good at? What is the impact that you want to make? I mean, you mentioned earlier about transportation. Like, I live in the suburbs. I have to have a car. I have to drive a car everywhere. That sucks. I can't afford an electric vehicle. So I'm going to be burning the fossil fuels. But what I can do is take my children's education fund, like I guess you would call it a college fund, but our RESP, and make sure that I'm not investing in fossil fuels.
Right.
I can look at it and be like, okay, so what can I reasonably do and support with my money that's in line with my values to the best that I can? Because we still have to live in the system that we're trying to change. And I just don't subscribe to that idea that, like, well, if you can't be perfect, either shut up or don't do it. Like,
yeah.
It's messy. It's imperfect. It's complicated. There's no right answer. There's no one size fits all. Just like, do your best.
Right. I also just want to be like, well, you shut up. You shut up. Why don't you get off the internet? Like, you stop commenting on my shit. I don't know. I just get so frustrated because it's like, who are you, bot? Or who are you, random person that doesn't create content? You realize how difficult, like, why don't you start making content and you tell me how people feel and how time consuming and what it is. And then you come back to me and let me know. So that's how I feel about it. But now I mostly just post about my dogs and beavers. So.
Yes. And we will talk about that in a moment. So in the middle of all of this that we've talked about so far, you like randomly moved to Montana. Life took you there sort of unexpectedly. Yeah. So you have such a great story about how you ended up in Billings, if you would be willing to share that.
I am. Okay. So I first want to preface this by anybody who is thinking about moving for a man or just moving for love. Okay. Anybody that's considering this, okay, it needs to be serious. It can't just be like, oh, he got a job and I'm going to go. Did he ask you to go? Does he want a future with you? How do you feel about living there? Could you see yourself living there? All of these different things come into play. So I'm just prefacing that with my story. So I actually have always wanted to not necessarily live in Montana, but it's kind of weird. Montana really is one of those places that I feel like a lot of people in the U.S. haven't been out here, like Montana, Wyoming. It's not really a frequented state. There's not a lot of people that live here, but it's just so incredibly beautiful and the landscapes are amazing. And I just always wanted to at least visit the national parks out here. When I was in my early 20s, I applied for a job at Glacier National Park in Western Montana and promptly got denied. And I reached out to them and they were like, well, what experience do you have? I'm like, well, I don't. I just kind of wanted to work there. And they said, well, have you ever been here? And I said, well, no, who's been there? So that didn't work out for me. So during the
I have vibes. That's my resume.
I have a good personality. I can lure people to the park and raise money. I mean, come on, So anyway, I was in my, DC apartment, during the pandemic, and you aren't doing anything. And I was single at the time. And I was like, oh, why not now meet people that live in other places? And I don't know. I thought of Montana and I didn't really know a lot about it. So I downloaded a dating app and I set my location to Billings, of all places, again, because I didn't know any other city. I just knew it was the biggest city. And Billings, by the way, is nowhere close to Glacier National Park. It's like a 7.5 hour drive. I guess in the U.S. we measure by hours.
Oh, no, these are Canada drive times. We don't know distance. We do time.
Yeah. Perfect. It's very similar. So it's, like 7.5. It's out there. It's very far away. And so anyway, I set my location to Billings and I matched with a guy. He had a really funny prompt on his profile that said that Die Hard was a Christmas movie. And I agreed. It is, exactly. Well, that's the people that are listening. You can go ahead, if there's a comment section, you can let us know if you feel that it's a Christmas movie or not. But it's at a Christmas party. It's a Christmas movie. And so we started chatting and he said, do you want to meet up? And I thought, well, it's COVID, so you need to be careful with that. But also, I don't live there. I live in Washington, D.C. That's very, far away. And I said, but I've enjoyed talking to you. So if you want to keep talking, I would really enjoy that. And any other time, I think he would have just ghosted me. I think he would have been like, no, I'm not going to keep talking to you, you weirdo. Like, why would you set your location here? And so I continued to talk with him over the summer. And finally he was like, so are you going to come out here or what? And I said, well, I guess no time like the present. So I tested, I socially distanced, I masked up, and I made the trip out here. And he picked me up from the Billings airport and we made that 7.5 hour drive to Glacier together. That was our first date. And then I didn't leave. I just stayed here. Are you crying?
I'm not crying. It's fine. Well, maybe.
Are you crying?
It's so sweet.
Oh, thank you. But one of the things, remember, because we always chat on the internet, right, is that during COVID winter, like we didn't go anywhere. We didn't go see family. We just kind of, it's my COVID boo. And so we were trying to create like new activities to do. And I think the one I'm talking about, where we would make PowerPoint presentations. We started doing that every like Friday night after work. We would take the whole week and we would create a PowerPoint. We'd have a topic or a theme and we would create a PowerPoint and then we would present it to each other. And we had some good ones. They were fun date nights. And then the world opened up and now we have lives with friends again. So, yeah.
And then you got married.
Oh, yeah. And then we got married. I never
That's
left.
how it ends. Yeah.
So, yeah, basically my work, I wasn't supposed to be remote from my job. Like I don't work there anymore. So I can say like I went to Montana, but I wasn't supposed to. I was still supposed to be local. And so I went back. They called us back to the office. And then basically I made plans over that summer to move out here. And I did. And now 5 years later, we're married. We got 2 rescue dogs. One's whining in the background. Hopefully you can't hear her. We have a house. I have a garden now. So I really do. I mean, Billings isn't big enough maybe to constitute as a suburb, but I definitely am living that burb life. Got a garden, got a house, doing all the things. So, yeah.
What were your first impressions when you got there? Like, do you notice, was there like a cultural shift, a lifestyle shift?
Definitely cultural. One of the things that I mean, obviously I miss my friends. And I miss that, very busy city way of life. It's slower here. They're really nice here. Not as many people. But there's also one thing I really miss is just the food diversity. There's just kind of, Montana's known for, they got ranches, they got good beef. I don't really eat beef, so that kind of sucks for me. But I really miss eating a very diverse type of food, and I don't get that as much here. So I do miss that a lot. But I mean, other than that, I think culturally it is a little more conservative here in this part of Montana too. So that was a little bit of a culture shock for me too, and being in a really large, densely populated area with a very diverse demographic and different people from all walks of life, all parts of the world. And then you move to Montana and it's really not as diverse. It's a lot smaller. And so people just think a bit differently. And that's been a bit of an adjustment in trying to get used to that. And I think I have at this point, because I've been here for 5 years, but at first it was tough, very tough.
So have you found or like built community around sort of your like sustainable living values in that way?
Definitely. And the thing is that I feel that I've rubbed off on other people. Like, people have become more aware of different lifestyles and different ways of living, especially sustainably. A lot of people, they know what I care about, and then they kind of care about those things too. And so it's a slow ripple effect, but I think that they're becoming more aware of that. And I've also made a career shift. So I work for a nonprofit that raises money for a local trail system. And so there's a lot of like-minded folks there too, because they're active people and they want to ride their bikes all over town. They want to commute to work. They want to feel safe doing it. And so they really care about that too. And that's really allowed me to find my people in this area. So
can you tell us a little bit more about the trail systems and what that sort of accessibility to that active transportation and outdoor area is like?
So I don't know if it's like, I don't believe it's like this for every municipality in Montana, but at least in the city of Billings and Yellowstone County, there used to be more dedicated funding for new trail construction, but now that doesn't exist. And so all of the new trails, I want to say it was about 20 years ago, maybe it was 2012, but there was a federal grant system that was cut, and it cut I think over 80% of grant funding to this type of active transportation and trail systems. And so new trail construction, it really slowed around that time, 10 or 15 years ago, I want to say. And that's when my organization already existed, but they rebranded to being, instead of just focusing on bike trails, it just became all multi-use paved trails, and really trying to focus on raising money for the trail system, because it's not funded at any level locally for that new construction. And so we focus on trying to connect all parts of our community and our city. As of this year, we have about 55 miles of trails, which is pretty good, I think, for this area. Unfortunately, the neighborhood I live in is not connected by those at this point. They're working on it, but overall, there is a pretty good trail system, and folks that live close to that can take advantage of that.
My morning trail walks are like so important to my overall, not just mental health, but how I feel about like, the planet. It's that whole like act locally, think globally. My birds are very important to me. So I'm just very lucky that the neighborhood that I live in, like I live in an 80s subdivision, but we had a ravine they couldn't build houses on. So they built a trail system. And then over time, that's starting to be connected to other multi-use pathways sort of throughout the region. But the funding is so important. And like you just said, in many cases, non-existent. So how do you navigate those hurdles to doing this community level work?
It's been quite the learning experience, honestly. So I mentioned earlier that I grew up in Cleveland, and the trail system there, it's extensive. It's funded locally. Everybody loves it. It's the Metro Park system. So again, tons and tons of trails all across the county and the area, and people support it anytime there's any sort of levy or tax increase that's necessary to fund new trails or for maintenance, people support it. And so I grew up around that kind of mentality. And here, again, the mindset is a bit different, where people don't see the trail system that way. They think that only a small portion of the community uses it, and so they shouldn't have to support it with their tax dollars. They think that nobody bikes, or we shouldn't have bike lanes. I mean, there's just like this whole mentality around what kinds of recreation we need here. And not to go, I'm going to get back to that point, but I think when I said earlier as well that I kind of had a bit of a culture shock moving here, and then it shifted towards, okay, well, I really care about sustainability. I had this, very vigilant zero waste lifestyle where I care about all of these little things, and I can't necessarily abide by that because there's not that infrastructure for that. I do my best here, but the mindset shift is that here they don't necessarily care about that. But what is really important is that we live in an area where it's a healthcare corridor, and the healthcare system, we didn't have the closest level 1 trauma center up to 2 years ago was in Denver. And if you know how far away that is, it's far away. And so you have all of these folks here or in rural communities where they have to go hundreds of miles to get any sort of trauma care or certain types of care when they go to Salt Lake or Denver or Seattle or whatnot. So we're really trying to grow that healthcare corridor in this area to really take care of the people that live here in a wide geographical region or area, especially those rural communities, a lot of Native communities that need that help and healthcare that come to Billings as well. And you have to say, hey, we need things that make people want to live here. People want to live in a place that's clean, that's sustainable. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people are, you have healthcare workers that have lived in a lot of other places and they're used to this type of infrastructure. They want to have things to do. They want to be able to take their families out on the trails, have recreational activities. Like, this is the things that we need to focus on, and this is what's going to bring them here. So again, it's more of a pitch shift in, hey, you should really care about this trash jar. Oh, you don't care about that? Okay, well, do you care about doctors living here and taking care of you when you're ill or when you grow old? So, it's been an experience, but those are some of the things that I've gotten used to learning about the trail system here. And then also there's so many facets of it. There's so many entities that are involved in it. You have local government, county government, state government. I mean, there's just so many hands that are in it. And it takes so long to approve certain trails because of the easements that you need and where you're going to build them and how you're going to fund it. I mean, it's wild, but it's been a good learning experience. And I like educating others about it so that they can help us raise money for it.
Navigating the ecosystem, if you will. All of the parts have to be just so. But speaking of ecosystem and engineering, I suppose, can we talk about your newfound love of beavers?
Oh,
as a Canadian,
environmental engineers. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we're such good friends. It's because I love beavers so much.
I was like, that's on our nickel, girl. Yes, we love beavers. So you have to explain, how did you get so into beavers? Because that came on quick.
It did. Okay, so the neighborhood that I live in, it's not far from the Yellowstone River, and wildfires, they are very prominent out in the American West, as Canadians know that as well. Just wildfire season can be kind of rough out here. Mm-hmm. And so there are these, they call it the suburban ditch, but it comes up from the Yellowstone River, and normally it's empty. But because the wildfire season was so bad a couple of years ago, I think that's why they filled it, was just for fire mitigation. And so these beavers, this pair of beavers, they made their way, it's a beaver couple. So they made their way from the river up this suburban ditch that was filled with water. And people in the neighborhood started complaining about it because they didn't want the beavers to, I don't know, chew on trees and ruin their house, or there's just a lot of kids and dogs in the neighborhood and they didn't want there to be a, beaver dog scuffle. I don't know. So called Fish and Wildlife. Come to find out, they didn't catch and release. They caught one of them and they euthanized it. And it made me so upset that I just went on this, I just went on this I just was really crashing out. I was really upset. I'm like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, what is the point? Right. And so I'm asking around, and I called one of the local Fish and Wildlife offices and I said, hey, I live in this neighborhood. I heard about this beaver situation. And he said, hey, ma'am, don't worry, it's taken care of. And I said, no, I'm calling on behalf of the beavers. Why did you do that? I'm not a beaver lawyer, but what is up with why did you put that down? And they couldn't give me an answer. It was basically like, oh, we'll call you back. And they tried to say it was per state law. And I said, okay, well, can you point me to the annotated code? I want to read it. And it was, oh, we'll call you back. And then,
you picked the wrong one. I'm going to become a beaver lawyer. Yeah.
I say I don't hold grudges, but like, I try not to, because it's not good for you and it's not good, but I do. And I'm really mad about that still. That was 3 years ago. So I just really care about, I don't ever want that happen again. And it's not just beavers. I mean, they're not aggressive animals here. There's a lot of wildlife here that can take you out. So you have, grizzlies, you have other type of bears, you have moose, elk. I mean, there's like a lot of large animals that can really take you out here. And I feel like beavers they're so good for the environment. They make their own little ecosystems. They're sweet. They even warn you, like when you're getting too close, they like slap their tails in the water and they go, hey, okay, hey girl, maybe you should get out of here. Like, this is my water. And I don't know why they did that. So I've just kind of been on a mission ever since to figure out why they did that. And my guess is because of cost. It's cheaper to euthanize them than it is to relocate them. And their excuse is that they come back. Well, the female, they put the male down. That's the beaver they caught. The other one never came back. So obviously they were wrong. And I just don't want that to happen again because it doesn't make sense. And in other states, in my beaver advocacy, other states have started to reintroduce beavers into areas, especially Northern California. I think there was a land back initiative in part of Northern California, and those folks, I think it was an indigenous community that reintroduced beavers into the area. And originally it was scorched by those PG&E fires from a couple years ago. And I want to say that now, since the beavers have been there, it's flourishing. They're doing it for the environment.
Yes,
and so
they're land managers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The original land manager. So they're such great little animals and I just like them, and they're also cute on merch. So I just really appreciate them and advocate for them. And here we are.
They are cute on merch, such as the Canadian nickel. It's such a metaphor for sustainability, I think, on both ends, though, like in the pro and the maybe bureaucratic end, which is just you have to work with what's around you and shape the landscape slowly in the way it was meant to be shaped and make space for others. Right? I think that's really what's at the heart of sustainability is like adapting, rebuilding, and finding ways to keep going, even when the conditions are not ideal, in the hope of building a better world for everyone to thrive. Yeah,
exactly. And I will say with my current work, because I work essentially in an outdoor space or outdoors focused organization space, I do know the folks that work for State Fish and Wildlife now. And I did bring that up to them. So I feel like it's on the radar, but don't forget about the things that you're passionate about. Like, stay on it, because you never know who you're going to meet, who you can talk to, how you can advocate for it. Like, if you're passionate about it, keep on with it. Like, you'll make change in your own way, to be honest. So
Yeah, I talked to Matt Howard from Howie's Everything Club a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the things that he was talking about is just be super weird about your thing and talk about your thing endlessly to everyone, because that's your power. Is you have a thing that you're weird about. I'm weird about chickadees. You're weird about beavers, and you just talk about that all the time. That's your passion, and it gives you focus instead of trying to put out all of the fires, because we just can't. But the thing that you're passionate about, you can make a real difference on.
And recently that can be attested to as well. I mean, there's just so many things that are 24-hour news cycle. There's just always something going on. There's always something to be outraged about. And it's important to care about those things, but sometimes you do have to focus, because if we all took a piece and kind of focused on what we were really, really passionate about and try to support others in the way that we could, I just feel like we could get a lot more done, because our attention wouldn't be everywhere all at once. Because like you said, you can't put out every fire yourself. Like you need help. So that's
especially
important.
when everything's on fire. So, given how hard, it's just everything. It's not, given like how hard things are right now, just like politically, culturally, climate change wise, like what helps you stay grounded and keep pushing for better?
My therapist helps me out a lot. I don't know if you need medication, take it. But I will say, I mean, nature is very important. It is really important to turn off your phone. I should practice what I preach. I can't say
turn off
that
my phone. Yeah.
What do you mean? I shouldn't.
No, I know what you mean.
For hours. Yeah. You have your TV on and your phone. It's like so environmentally friendly and good for your brain. But unplugging from those things, I have to remind myself to do that. Getting out on the trails, hanging out with my dogs, hanging out with the people that you love, just really talking about community earlier, just really focusing on community and community support. You might be up when other people are down. You might be down when other people, I mean, just supporting each other is so important, and trying to get out into nature and off your devices is probably the best advice that I could give. Yeah.
Unplugging is the most difficult thing, but always the most effective, which is so annoying. Okay, so before we wrap up, then I always like to put every guest on the spot at the end. I like to end on something I call one small shift. So that's just about finding like one simple, doable thing or change that we can make to help us live a little greener without burning out, I guess. So like, what's one small thing you would encourage folks to try this week, especially for anyone who feels like they're trying to build a dam across the current we're currently living in?
Yeah, go for a swim. You can do it with me, because I am trying really hard to do more of this, aside from getting off my device, being one with community. Journal with me this week. So put all your thoughts on a piece of paper, write them, get them out, and then leave them there. And I guess we could start over on that. I'm not really totally sure.
I like that. I'm happy to, I would love to do that. That's one thing. Every night I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to journal, and then I don't. So that's a great impetus for me to just like brain dump it out and burn it. I don't know. It's just the act of being slower is so difficult to take, but it's so necessary.
And I will add, I guess, with the one small act to do, it's not necessarily when I think about sustainability, I always think about doing and how I can make cleaner out of orange peels, or how I can compost something, or, but I really think that eco-anxiety is so real right now, and we're all so stressed out about what's going on, that I really think, and my therapist told me to do it more too. So you have a mental health care professional that's backing us in this. So let's journal together. Let's put our thoughts out on paper. Like you said, get it all out, make yourself feel better. And then you'll be more mentally prepared to get out there and do the big things for the environment.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to come up with a little prompt and put it in the show notes for folks to journal. And then you can email it to me, or I like that.
Are you coming up
No,
with
don't
that?
email it. We're writing it on paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No electronics. Oh, and
No.
I was going to say, try not to use AI for 1 week. Don't use AI for 1 week. It's probably what I should have said, but
Yeah,
leave it for a week. See what happens.
Yeah. You can't do it when you're writing on paper. So nailed it.
You can't. They're all your own ideas. What a wild concept.
AI stands for actual imagination. I saw that recently and I was like, ooh, I like that. Can't take credit for it. I didn't write it. I hope a real person did, but I like that.
Somebody somewhere said it and you're using it. So
yeah,
it's good. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kristy. It's been so lovely chatting with you today. And where can people find you?
Nowhere. Leave me alone. No. You can find me. My handles on social are it's at Kristy the Person, which is also a joke in itself. Because my family
Kristy
calls
the
me
Clown.
Kristy. That's my nickname, and then I'm the person as opposed to the clown. So at Kristy the Person. My website's still active, so there are still impact investing resources on my website, which is just KristyHalderman.com.
Thank you, Kristy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Kristy for that conversation. And if you'd like to keep exploring some of the ideas that we talked about today, you'll find all of that down in the show notes. You can also find the transcript and other links over at sustainableinthesuburbs.com. Make sure you jump on my newsletter while you're there for weekly stories, tips, and a little inspiration for sustainable living. Until next time, start where you are, use what you have, and live a little greener, one small shift at a time. Thanks for tuning in to Sustainable in the Suburbs. Every small step adds up, and I'm so glad we're doing this together. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me at sustainableithesuburbs.com or at Sarah Robertson Barnes on all the things. Until next time, start where you are, use what you have, and live a little greener.
This podcast is produced, mixed, and edited by Cardinal Studio. For more information about how to start your own podcast, please visit www.cardinalstudio.co or email Mike at mike@cardinalstudio.co. You can also find the details in the show notes.